All right, welcome back. So the title of this mini lecture is The Vietnam War till 1964. And there's a lot to the Vietnam conflict. There's a lot to understand. There's a lot to think about. And there's a lot that's wrapped up into it politically. So we're going to talk about 5 things, again, that you need to be thinking about or that you should keep on your mind as you go to do more research. Let's get started. The first is colonial history. We should not think of Vietnam singularly through the lens of the Cold War. We need to view that particular region of the world and its national status and what it thinks of itself and its culture and society from a much longer historical plane. It's a colonial history that involves difficulty with China. It's a cultural history that involves a long period of colonialism from the French, and those histories influenced how Vietnamese people and others interacted and related with the U.S. with their arrival in the 20th century. Second point, Dien Bien Phu. After the Second World War came to an end in 1945, the United States thought it was in its best interests and in the world's best interests to support France's efforts at reestablishing their colonial authority worldwide. Basically, America doesn't like the Soviets. America says, okay, well then let's make sure that we put our friends who we like back in power so that they don't become Soviet and these areas don't sort of become Soviet. And it's all kind of wrapped up in containment. But again, the idea is we don't want communism to spread. So we help put the French back in power. The French decide to engage in a reimposition of colonial authority, which leads the Vietnamese people, particularly the Viet Minh and Ho Chi Minh's followers, against them. And you see these battles that it all kind of culminates in 1954, where the French forces at this new base called Dien Bien Phu are surrounded by North Vietnamese forces led by a guy named Vo Nguyen Giap, General Giap. And what comes of it is the French forces are defeated, and the French decide to basically throw the Indo-Chinese question, the Vietnamese question, basically, to an international conference. And there, the Americans get involved and say, okay, we're going to split Indochina up, and you're going to have a North Vietnam, you're going to have a South Vietnam, and the Americans are going to kind of bolster and kind of support South Vietnam. Now, we said there was going to be elections, but so that's kind of why Dien Bien Phu is a big deal. Number 3, South Vietnam. So we create an independent anti-communist country. Now this is partly done through the CIA. This is partly done through using folks from the North and from the South who had helped the French govern the Vietnamese people. And if you want to create a system where you get people to like you, you don't really want old colonial administrators to run the show, because those are the people that everybody didn't like. And who did we get to do this? All the people that everybody didn't like. So you've got a lot of problems in terms of the institutional creation of South Vietnam, and this is really going to be something that works against the American efforts here. Fourth, Ap Bach. So in 1962, early 1963, the United States military is training up the ARVN Army, the Army of the Republic of Vietnam, South Vietnam, and they get involved in a battle in January of 1963 called the Battle of Ap Bach, where they are a much greater force than the Viet Cong, or the VC and the individuals that they're engaging, and they're defeated. They're defeated pretty badly. It's a clear sign that the South Vietnamese military hasn't been training up as well, perhaps as the Americans had hoped, and this was a real sign that the Americans were going to have to either invest more, or they were going to have to look to kind of get out of Vietnam. And fifth, the Gulf of Tonkin. So August 1964, Lyndon Johnson is President of the United States, and the USS ship, the American ship, is attacked in the Tonkin Gulf off the North Vietnamese coast. The Americans, of course, claim that it was in international waters. The North Vietnamese claim it wasn't. They don't really actually hit the ship that night. They hit some of the other ships other nights, but, President Johnson, claims, of course, that this attack happened in August of 1964. He goes to Congress and says he would like a resolution of support for military action to defend American interests and the interests of our allies in Vietnam and in the region. And he gets it. This is called the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution. And in many ways, this becomes kind of a blank check for U.S. Offensive efforts in the Vietnam, what will become the Vietnam War. All right, thank you.